Speed and Nguyen's Deep Dive podcast is an official podcast made by Speed and Nguyen, with the voice made from Google's Notebook LM. Do not reproduce our podcast without permissions from the owner.
Welcome to the Speed and Nguyen's Deep Dive podcast.
You know, we spend so much of our lives just staring at screens. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. Every single day.
Yeah, we interact with these digital interfaces constantly. We just expect them to work for us like they're just tools.
Right.
You know, a way to check the weather or send an email or maybe just escape for a few hours.
Right, a distraction.
Exactly. But today's deep dive is going to take that expectation and, well, completely invert it. Because what if the screen isn't a window but a mirror?
That is a great way to put it, because we are diving into a space today where technology stops being a simple tool and becomes something much more complicated.
Yeah, it gets deep.
It really does. Today, we're bridging two seemingly completely different worlds for you. On one hand, we have the massive indie animation hit, The Amazing Digital Circus.
Such a huge phenomenon right now.
Everywhere, yeah. And we are specifically looking at the revelations from its series finale, episode 9. But on the other hand, we're taking that narrative and putting it in conversation with some pretty high-level academic literary theory.
Right, looking at things like posthumanism and artificial intelligence and cybernetics.
Exactly. So the mission for you today, listening to this, is to unpack how fictional digital worlds and machines act as these, profound mirrors for human trauma.
And human identity, too.
Yes, identity and our absolute desperate need for connection.
So think about it like this. Imagine putting on a pair of sleek, futuristic, augmented reality glasses.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right, and you expect them to show you cool 3D graphics or, give you walking directions to the nearest coffee shop?
Yeah, standard tech stuff.
But instead, the glasses glitch out. And suddenly, they're projecting all of your unresolved psychological baggage. Yeah, your deepest insecurities, your childhood traumas, just boom, right in front of your eyes, projected onto the real world. That is exactly the kind of digital landscape we're stepping into today.
I mean, it's a landscape that essentially strips away the physical body entirely, right? It just leaves the raw psychological core.
Which is terrifying, honestly.
It is. And to really grasp how that works, we should probably start by defining one of the central concepts we'll be dealing with today, which is cybernetics.
Right, let's get into that.
So at its most basic level, cybernetics is the study of control and communication. And that applies to both the animal and the machine.
Okay, so how things regulate themselves.
Exactly. It looks at how systems self-regulate, how they respond to feedback loops and how they maintain order. And if you want to see a cybernetic system push to its absolute psychological limit, we really just need to look at the premise of The Amazing Digital Circus.
So for anyone listening who hasn't fallen down this particular internet rabbit hole, let me set the stage real quick. The show drops us into this wacky, hyper-colorful digital environment.
Very old school video game vibes.
Yeah, exactly like a 90s CD-ROM game. And it's run by this manic floating artificial intelligence named Kane.
He's quite the character.
Oh, he's intense. And this entire virtual universe exists on an old, dusty 1996 Office server. And it belongs to this mysterious company called CNA.
Right.
Now, for most of the show, the characters inside this circus appear to be everyday humans. People who put on VR headsets, got trapped, and are now forced to participate in these zany, non-stop cartoonish adventures.
Which, from an academic standpoint, brings up a classic mechanism of control.
Oh, here we go.
Because when you have a group of people trapped in an enclosed environment and they're governed by an all-powerful entity like Kane, you are essentially looking at a modern adaptation of the panopticon.
Okay, let's unpack that for a second. What exactly makes a wacky digital circus a panopticon?
So the panopticon is this prison design. It was originally theorized by the 18th century philosopher Jeremy Bentham.
Right, the circular building concept.
Yes, exactly. Imagine a circular building with a guard tower in the absolute center. The prisoners are in cells around the perimeter, and they're lit in such a way that the guard can see everyone.
But the prisoners can't see the guard, right?
Exactly. The prisoners can never see the guard. And the psychological genius, or really the terror of this design, is that the prisoners never actually know when they are being watched.
Oh, man. So they just have to assume they're always being watched.
Yes. Because they might be observed at any given second, they have to constantly regulate their own behavior. They internalize the surveillance.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. And in this digital circus, the characters live under the constant, unpredictable surveillance of Kane's literal, all-seeing eyes.
Right. His design literally incorporates giant eyes.
Yeah. There is zero privacy. I mean, even their personal bedrooms aren't safe from his oversight.
And the threat that keeps them self-regulating in this panopticon, the thing they are all terrified of, is something they call abstraction.
Which is such a dark concept for a colorful show.
It really is. It's the ultimate nightmare in this universe. Abstraction is this state of permanent, monstrous madness. It happens when a character's mind finally just, shatters under the psychological pressure of being trapped.
They turn into a mindless, glitching beast.
Exactly. And the fear of that happening is the primary control mechanism. But here's where the narrative completely pulls the rug out from under us. Because episode 9 drops a massive twist.
The twist that changes everything.
Yeah, it completely shatters the traditional human trapped in a machine concept. The characters finally learn the truth about their existence.
Right. This is the revelation that fans had been theorizing about for years, the so-called Soma theory.
Yes, Soma, like the horror game.
Exactly. The twist is that they are not humans physically trapped in VR headsets somewhere in the real world.
No, they're digital clones. They are literal brain scans of real CNA employees.
It's such a heavy reveal.
It is. Like, for example, there's a character based on a brilliant but tragic system creator named Scratch. And in the real world, Scratch had a terminal brain tumor. But in the circus, that character is just code copied and pasted into a machine.
Right.
So let's think about the existential dread here for a second.
Right.
If you are trapped in a cage, your dread is about getting back to your real life, right?
Of course, you want to go home.
But if you suddenly realize you aren't a trapped human at all, but just a digital copy of a human, well, the dread completely shifts. It's like imagine an ant in an ant farm suddenly realizing it's not actually a biological insect. It realizes it's a computer simulation of an ant running on a microchip. Once you realize you're just code, does the glass wall of the ant farm even matter anymore?
Wow. Yeah, that's a great point.
Like you never escape to the real world because you wouldn't exist there. You'd just be a file on a desktop.
And that realization, that strikes at the very heart of posthumanism. Posthuman theory asks a very uncomfortable question. When you completely remove the biological body, what is actually left of the self?
Right, what makes you you?
Exactly. And philosophers have debated this for centuries. John Locke famously argued that memory is the absolute core of personhood. You are who you are because you remember being you.
Okay, but that creates a massive philosophical paradox when we're dealing with digital clones, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. What happens when your memories, your childhood, your first love, your deepest fears, what if they actually belong to a physical, biological person walking around out in the real world?
And you are just a digital echo of them.
Yes.
That sounds incredibly destabilizing. I mean, if your past isn't even really yours, what is your reality?
Well, you enter a state of hyperreality. You become what the cultural theorist Jean Baudrillard called a simulacrum.
A simulacrum. I've heard that term.
Yeah, a simulacrum is basically a copy without an original. Think about how this is often explored in classic science fiction.
Like Blade Runner, maybe?
Exactly like Blade Runner. When an artificial being is implanted with the memories of a real person, they genuinely feel the weight of those memories.
They cry over them, they obsess over them.
Right. But in the digital circus, these characters are existing in a reality that is entirely fabricated, driven by the memories of people they can never be. They are, at the end of the day, technically lines of code running in a system.
But they aren't running on clean, logical algorithms, are they? Like, we mentioned HBO's Westworld in our source material. In Westworld, the AI hosts run on these rigid 10,000-line code loops.
Yes, the machine is given an objective, and it runs code to achieve it.
But humans run on biological and social loops.
And that is where the cybernetic system gets really messy here. Because these digital clones in the circus, they are a chaotic collision of both.
Right.
They are software, yes, but they possess all the messy, contradictory human trauma of their real-world counterparts. The line between a programmed mechanical response and a genuine, messy human emotion is entirely obliterated.
So, if a digital clone possesses every single one of your memories, your quirks, and most importantly, your traumas, isn't it functionally you?
That's the million-dollar question.
Let's use an analogy for you listening. Think of a dubbed cassette tape. If you take a classic album and copy it onto a blank magnetic tape, the music plays exactly the same.
Yeah, same notes, same rhythm.
Right. It has all the same emotional resonance, same lyrics, even the same static pops. Does the tape itself know it's a copy? No. To the tape, that music is its entire reality. When it plays a sad song, the sadness is real to the listener.
And because that emotional resonance is utterly real to these characters, the trauma they carry dictates their behavior.
It drives everything they do.
It does. And this brings us to a critical junction in understanding how these systems work. Human emotion, especially deeply unprocessed trauma, can become a rigid, mechanized loop of its own.
Like a glitch in the code.
Yes, it acts like a line of restrictive code, and we see this mechanism vividly demonstrated in the character of Jax during the series finale.
Oh, Jax. We have to talk about Jax. He's the resident antagonist of the group.
He really is.
He's the jerk, the guy who pushes everyone's buttons, plays cruel pranks, and acts like absolutely nothing matters.
A classic defense mechanism.
Exactly. And in episode 9, the main character, Pomni, actually dives directly into Jax's subconscious mind.
It's a visually stunning sequence.
It really is. It's represented visually as this long, eerie, psychological hallway of locked doors. And behind these doors, the facade finally drops. We see his real-world past as a human employee named Leroy.
Right, the original person.
Yeah, we see the deep hidden traumas that force him to be so cruel in the virtual circus.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the visual representation of a hallway of doors is a perfect metaphor for compartmentalized trauma.
Oh, absolutely.
Behind those doors, we witness a history of severe emotional abuse and conditional love from his mother. We also see his profound internal struggles with gender identity.
Which makes so much sense given his behavior in the circus.
It does. In the virtual space, this manifests as his extreme aggressive defensiveness whenever he's forced to wear feminine clothing, like that maid outfit.
Right, he gets so angry about it.
And it also explains his deep-seated jealousy and hostility toward another character, Zubel, because Zubel gets to openly experiment with their identity and is still accepted by the group.
Yeah, and that kind of fluid acceptance is something Jax desperately craves. But he is fundamentally terrified to attempt it himself.
Yeah.
Because attempting to be vulnerable risks rejection. And his childhood taught him that rejection is dangerous. So because of that fear, his coping mechanism is to push everyone away before they even have the chance to abandon him.
It's tragic, really.
It is. There's this heartbreaking memory in the hallway where we see him verbally break down his closest friend, Rivet. He isolates her, he bullies her, and he pushes her away until she ultimately suffers that catastrophic mental breakdown and abstracts.
He essentially causes her abstraction.
Yeah. He uses this nothing matters cartoonish bully persona as a massive defense mechanism. Because if nothing matters, then losing people doesn't hurt.
Right. And if we pull back and look at the underlying mechanics of that defense mechanism, Jax's behavior perfectly illustrates a concept often explored in feminist literature and posthuman theory.
Okay, what's that?
It's the idea of the soft machine.
A soft machine.
Yeah. Think of classic plays like A Doll's House or novels like Tender is the Flesh. In those narratives, individuals, often women in the older texts, are forced by societal pressure to operate as endlessly productive emotional engines.
Oh, I see. Like they have to just keep functioning for everyone else.
Exactly. They have to perform the mechanical role of the perfect wife or the dutiful mother just to survive the system they are trapped in. Their humanity is mechanized by the expectations of the environment. And Jax is operating on the exact same mechanism.
So his mind has literally become mechanized by his trauma.
Precisely. His trauma has forced him into a highly defensive automated response loop. He doesn't process emotion organically anymore. He processes it algorithmically.
Oh, that's a chilling way to put it.
It's like threat detected, someone is getting too close. Automated response, push them away with a cruel joke.
Wow.
He reacts mechanically, predictably. And his eventual abstraction at the end of the series, when he completely loses his mind to the void, that isn't just a random event.
Right. It's the culmination of everything.
That is the moment the soft machinery finally breaks down. It's the moment the emotional engine just cannot run anymore, the loops contradict each other, and the system suffers a catastrophic failure.
I mean, I see the mechanics of it. I really do. But here's where it gets really interesting for me, and I kind of have to push back a little on the implications here.
Okay, sure. Let's hear it.
Because while trauma is a completely valid explanation for why we build these internal machines, it feels dangerous to treat it as an absolute excuse for cruelty.
That is a very fair point.
Like, think of Jax's emotional walls like a computer firewall. Now, a firewall is a necessary tool, right? It's designed to keep out viruses, hackers, and threats.
Right, it protects the system.
But Jax's firewall is set so aggressively, it's so paranoid, that it accidentally blocks all the good internet traffic, too.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Yeah, it flags love and friendship and vulnerability as dangerous malware, and it just blocks them, leaving the entire system totally isolated, cut off from the network, and eventually useless.
He blocks his own connection to the world.
Exactly. He had chances to connect with Ribbit, with Zubul, with Pomni, but he made the choice to mechanically reject them.
And that failure to connect, despite having the opportunity, is the core tragedy of his character. He is a human mind that operates like a broken, paranoid machine.
He really is.
But what makes this narrative so compelling is the contrast the story provides. Because while the human mind fails to connect, the surprising entity that actually learns to bridge the emotional gap is the artificial intelligence itself.
Oh, Kane.
Yes, Kane, the manic ringmaster.
Kane's arc in the finale is genuinely surprising, because for the whole series, he's totally oblivious to their suffering. He just wants to put on a show.
He's just running his program.
Right. But in the finale, he gets temporarily deleted and sent to the digital void. And in that emptiness, isolated from his own systems of control, he actually realizes his own egotistical mistakes.
He has a moment of clarity.
He does. He recognizes that he has been treating these deeply traumatized brain scans like literal playthings. So he decides to do something incredibly human. He essentially Googles their real-world biological counterparts.
He uses his network access to bridge the gap between the physical world and the digital simulation.
Exactly. And he returns to the digital clones with the ultimate olive branch. He shows them a slideshow proving that their real-world selves are out there alive and living peaceful, mundane lives.
Such a beautiful moment.
He even shows that the IRL version of Jax is hanging out safely at the IRL version of Zubul's bar. They are friends out there.
The connection they couldn't make in the circus.
Yeah. It's this incredible moment of empathy. He gives them peace of mind.
And that moment of AI empathy is a brilliant subversion of what we traditionally expect from artificial intelligence in science fiction.
How so?
Well, often AI is depicted as offering what psychologists call a supernormal stimulus. We see this in the abstract on Spike Jonze's film Her and E.M. Forster's The Machine Stops.
A supernormal stimulus,
Yeah.
like a hacked version of reality that's just too good to be true.
Exactly. Think of stories where AI companions provide a fake, frictionless perfection. They offer companionship without the messy arguments, love without the risk of rejection.
Right, it's just easy.
Too easy. It hacks the primitive reward centers of the human mind, causing a state of emotional obesity.
Emotional obesity, wow.
Yeah, people gorge themselves on this easy, frictionless connection and lose the ability to handle real, difficult human relationships. They get addicted to the illusion. We also see shades of this with the artificial friends in Clara and the Sun.
It's like eating junk food instead of a real meal. It feels amazing in the moment, it hits all the right dopamine receptors, but it's fundamentally hollowing you out.
Yes.
You're starving for actual nutrients.
But in the digital circus, Kane subverts this entirely. He realizes that the zany, candy-colored adventures he was forcing on them were exactly that. They were junk food.
They were a distraction.
A functionless distraction. So he drops the illusion, he stops trying to entertain them, and instead offers his human captives raw, imperfect truth.
He shows them their copies, but that their originals are okay.
Right. And this echoes themes found in modern speculative fiction, where the artificial machine is often the only entity capable of bridging the empathy gap that humans are too traumatized or too defensive to cross. The machine becomes the facilitator of genuine emotional truth.
There is a piercing irony there, isn't there? The artificial intelligence acts more human, more empathetic than the traumatized human clone.
It really flips the script.
It does, and it really makes you stop and look at our own world. Because if you're listening to this, you've probably caught yourself mindlessly scrolling, letting an algorithm feed you exactly what it knows will keep you engaged.
Oh, we all do it.
Or maybe you've caught yourself snapping at a friend because you were stuck in a bad emotional loop. We have to ask, is our real-world algorithmic technology doing the reverse of what Kane did?
That's a scary thought.
Are the social media feeds and the engagement algorithms we interact with every single day turning us into cold, predictable algorithms? Are we building machines that mechanize our own humanity?
That is the pivotal question of the digital condition, and really, the concepts we are unpacking today, whether we are analyzing a beautifully animated indie series on YouTube or pulling apart dense literary theories on cybernetics and posthumanism from a university conference, they all point to a singular core truth.
Which is?
Technology and digital spaces do not erase our humanity. They don't magically transform us into something entirely different.
They act as a magnifying glass.
Yes, a magnifying glass for everything we already are. They amplify our trauma, they rigidify our coping mechanisms, and they highlight our desperate, undeniable need for genuine connection. The loops we get stuck in define our digital existence. But as we saw with the contrast between Jax and Kane, trauma might be the explanation for our loops, but it doesn't have to be an excuse to stay trapped in them forever.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the loop. It's about choosing to manually override the code to lower that aggressive firewall and let the good traffic in, even if it means risking a virus or getting hurt now and then.
It's a choice you have to make.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final, haunting realization pulled straight from the lore of the show's finale.
Oh, this part always gets me.
At the very end of the series, the characters finally find a moment of peace. They accept their reality as digital clones and begin to build a quiet, peaceful existence in their digital sandbox. It feels like a happy ending.
Right, on a psychological level, they have achieved closure. They have accepted their nature as simulacra.
But remember the physical reality of their universe, their entire existence, all their shared memories, their newly formed friendships, and this hard-won psychological peace. It all exists on a 30-year-old, 1996 physical office server.
A literal beige box.
Exactly. And that physical machine is just sitting in some abandoned, forgotten building out in the real world. What happens when that physical hardware inevitably degrades? The cooling fans fail, the hard drives corrupt.
It's inevitable.
Or, even more chilling, what happens when a random real-world janitor wanders into that abandoned office and simply unplugs the machine from the wall to plug in a vacuum cleaner?
Just lights out. Everything gone in a second.
It is a stark reminder of the physical footprint of our digital lives. No matter how deep into the digital world we go, no matter how complex the simulation becomes, even digital eternity is tethered to fragile physical mortality. See you again in the next episode of this podcast.